to another. Remember one thing. God has never called you and me to remain in one city. God has called you and me to go beyond where you are. Jesus said in the parable of the talents, He said, for this person who was in charge of one city, give him 2. For this person who was in charge of 5 cities, give him 5 more. Give him whatever is in that guy who didn't take care of his seed or talent, and give it to this person. He says, when you get to heaven, you will be in charge of 10 cities. Why? Because God has found you faithful. You did not give up. There was no other resource. And the whole time that the master was away, you made sure that you were doing the very purpose that God has called you to do. You knew that you could not give up. You knew that there was a talent, a gift in you that had to come out. You knew there was a destiny that had to be fulfilled. You knew that it doesn't matter what people say. You will go from one city to the other to make sure the purpose of God is planted in the lives of those that you would touch. Look at your seatmate and say, whoever you touch, God has destined that they will receive the light. It says, you bring a light that will blind them beyond their ability to see. Next, please. Jesus did not end wars, end violence, end human suffering, end the spread of devastating diseases. He did not heal or feed everyone. Did you ever think of that? Jesus came here on the earth. He didn't stop the wars. He didn't even get Israel out of the bondage of Rome. He did not even end human suffering. So many people were sick. The priest was saying, hey, if you're Jesus, and if you're from God, why don't you heal everyone? You can hear that from a lot of people. They speak against Benny Hinn. They speak about men and women who have healing ministry. They say, if you're truly true, if you're for real, why don't you go to the hospitals and pray for every single person? Jesus said, don't you understand in the time of Elijah, that Elijah, not everyone was healed in the time of Elijah. When in the time of Jesus, not everyone was healed. He even went to the pool of Siloam, and there's only one paralytic of whom he came, and he said, pick up your mat and walk. Because he knew these were men and women who had a destiny in them, who would not give up. They knew that these people were waiting. He knew this man was there for years, and he knew one day, my day will come, when someone will come and say, pick up your mat! Roll it up and go! Walk! And when he saw Jesus, he said, this is it. This is it. And he picked it up. He didn't even ask who you were. All he knew was to pick up that mat. And he walked. Every single step he walked, because he knew there was a fulfillment of that destiny. I don't know if you understand what that mat was. That mat was something like the cloaks of the blind people and the beggars of those days. In those days, Rome would issue you a mat. That's your identification card. If you were issued a mat, that mat would also be the cloak that would be set around you, that would cover you. And each of them had a number, which means from this day on, you're part of those who are officially part of the beggars. This guy said, I refuse to be a beggar. He said, I'm going to pick up my mat. I'm not going to beg anymore. I'm going to make sure I will be a producer and not a consumer. I will rise up and I will not let myself be here in this place anymore. Doesn't matter if people think I'm a cripple. I will carry this mat because I know I'm going to throw this away. Because I will no longer need this. Look at your seat and say, I will never need welfare. I will never need to rely on this world. Because God has placed in me something far more greater than what man or human understanding can ever comprehend. Next, please. Jesus did not do everything when he was here. But he's coming back to take care of things later. In the meantime, he put the welfare and future of humanity in our hands. Don't you even think of that? Jesus knew that Judas was in charge of the money. He didn't even take time to say, hey Judas, you're stealing. I know you. He didn't even care of that. He didn't even think of that. All he knew is that he was there, and his purpose, the reason why he was born, was to die for you and me. To put his body on that cross. And the very thing that nailed him to that cross, the very power and energy that these Roman soldiers had in them to whip him, came from him. The book of John says, in him was life, and he was the light of men. It says, nothing can be made without him. In him we have our what? Our being. We live, we move, and we have our being. Imagine that means Jesus was actually whipping himself to the lives of those Roman soldiers. He was the one pounding those hammers to the life of those soldiers as he was being nailed to the cross. And he was even the one who said, I'm not going to fix everything. Because he said, I'm going to put that responsibility on you, on you, on you, on you, on every single one of us. Why? Because he said, I want to make sure that I'm not the only one who rise from where I am. But I want to make sure that each and every human being that I have called for my purpose will be tested by going through the trials of life. And as they go through the trials of life, and they allow their light to be placed on a pedestal by going through the darkness and piercing through that darkness, then I know they truly have life, and they have a life abundant. God has allowed imperfections in the world so that He may test. It's like brand new cars. There's nothing wrong with it. But they crash them into walls. They make them go through rough terrain. They make them go through stuff. So they can be placed, and their goal is what? To be placed on the Consumer Reports top 10. Or the top 10 cars, or whatever list there is. Because they want to make sure they're the best. God allows you and me to go through stuff, so you and me would be part of the top 10. Look at your seatmate and say, God wants you to be the best.
God wants you to be the best.
He wants you to be on the top list.
He wants you to be in the top list.
Whatever that list is.
Whatever that list is.
Doesn't matter if that's Forbes.
Matter.
God wants you to be on that list.
God wants you to be in that list.
Next thing, please. Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him who has endured such hostility by sinners against himself, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. He was giving us a reason and a way to overcome. He's saying, since we have so great a crowd of witnesses surrounding us, what does that mean? In the verse, this is Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 to 3. But in Hebrews chapter 11, he mentions all these saints. Moses and Joshua and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. He mentioned all those names. He's saying, we're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. All those men and women of faith are looking down. They're watching. They're saying, Gloria, I see you! He says, I see every single one of you. And he's saying, look, we are watching you, and every time you rise up, especially in the morning when you don't feel like going to church, he's saying, yay, come on. And they're applauding. Every single time this happens. Every single time you don't feel good. Every single time you don't want to see the person that you would see in church, but you still choose to come. These people are applauding. It takes effort to come to a place where you don't want to see people. It takes an effort when you go to your work and you don't want to see the people at work. It takes effort to do things that you don't want to do, to fulfill the destiny that you know you are called to do. And those witnesses are clapping their hands, saying, hey, come on, you can do it. We can do it. Saying that we're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. And he's saying, let us lay aside every encumbrance and the sin. Everything that is making you heavy, set it apart. Look at your seat and say, lay down every heaviness.
Lay down every heaviness.
And every sin. Everything that is keeping you away from doing God's will. Throw it out.